So, Heinemann Higher, Chapter 6, Differentiation, mixed exercise, success at the end, number 7. Find the intervals in which this graph here is increasing. Right, well, the first thing would have to be then differentiate it, because the derivative will tell you the gradient of the graph at the various points. Well, that's easy enough. Multiply by the power, take one off the power, multiply by the power, take one off the power. Then, to find when it's stationary, so say to find those stationary points, since the stationary points are the things that switch between increasing and decreasing, the stationary points will occur when the gradient is momentarily 0. So I'm looking for what's the values of x for which this expression, the gradient, comes to 0. Right, factorising that. 4 is in common, x is in common, that leaves an x squared minus 1, and there it goes again, difference of two squares. X minus 1, x plus 1 equals 0. So it's going to be stationary 3 times, when x equals 0, when x equals 1, and when x equals negative 1. So if those are the dividing points between the increases and decreases, how do you know which one's doing which? Table of signs. Right, so here's a table of signs. Something happens at negative 1, something happens at 0, something happens at 1. That's for x. Now the expression's not too complicated, so you could just use values straight off. I could work out the gradient just by thinking of things just before, somewhere in between again, and somewhere after, just by considering this expression rather than the factorisation. So, something in between, something like positive a half. Well, a half cubed has got to be less than a half, which means this term is going to be overwhelmed by this term here, in which case the answer is going to go negative. I should have put those zeros in first of all. At negative a half, between 0 and negative 1, at negative a half, again this term is going to be overwhelmed by this term, and at negative a half that's going to be positive, so this part will be positive. But once x goes beyond 1, once it goes beyond a fraction, then x cubed will triumph over x. So just to consider this term. So at negative 1, this term is going to be negative because of the cube. Doesn't matter what the other one does, it can't cope. And at anything beyond 1, this term is going to be positive. That can affect it. So that's going to go up. So the graph should be looking like this. It's going down, along, up, along, down, along, up. So if the question says, when is this increasing? Well, here are the parts where it's increasing. It's only increasing twice, between negative 1 and 0, and again when it leaves 1. So I'll just say that here finally. It's increasing for x greater than negative 1, but not equal to, because it's 0 there, less than 0, and again x greater than 1, where x can be any real number in between those. So that would be that part. But I also want to do this the table of signs way, if you don't particularly want to put numbers in and have to think of a wee bit of jiggery-pokery with the arithmetic. So here, starting again with the table of signs, this time I'm going to use this expression instead of that expression, because this is made up of those 3 factors. I've got 4x, I've got x minus 1, and I've got x plus 1. And the product of these 3 factors will give me my answer, dy by dx. But in particular, the product of the signs of these factors is all I need to get the sign of the final answer. And that can be rattled through quite quickly. X at 0, this term's 0, so it's negative before, and it's positive after. This term is 0 when x is 1. So it's going to be negative before and positive after. This term is 0 when x is negative 1. So it's going to be negative before and positive answer. It takes up a little bit more room, but there's no calculations involved here. So that part's going to be negative, 0, positive, 0, negative, 0, positive. Same answers again. It's going down, along, up, along, down, along, up, along. So here are the 2 parts between negative 1 and 0 and greater than 1 when it's increasing. 7.